Hi there. A little while ago, I started working on a fun story called Institutionalized Correction. And this story is a bit of a blend of adult side, romance, a little bit of a thriller kind of thing. It focuses on the complex relationship between an inmate and the captain of the guard, where she's stuck. Basically, she's on the way out and he's suffering a breakup, dissolution kind of thing on his end. There are mature themes in the book, so kids stay away. One of the main things associated with the book is like the deep psychological stuff, the interactions between people, both who have their own issues kind of thing, and how they end up working things out, growing into a healthy relationship. I tried to make it as nuanced yet fun as possible. It is adult romance thrillery kind of stuff. So the introduction and inspiration for the book is basically I was working from a technical side on dialogue and writing from a female perspective, which I haven't done too often in most of my books. Typically, I keep a single frame. This work is a back and forth by chapter. So you see the two characters equally exchanged in their interactions. One chapter will be one character, next chapter will be the next. So you get the double-barreled monologue, which was fun to write. It allowed me to explore a lot more of the depth and the interaction in the story than I typically do. It required a lot more research because I was writing, I don't want to say in a bad way, but I was trying to write personality disorders that I hadn't explored and worked into dialogues and stories before, specifically anger management, trust issues, anxiety, and then on the other side was depression, trust issues, not so much anxiety, but mostly the results of depression and the dissolution of a long relationship. Core summary of the book is basically girl goes away young, gets locked up during the entire time that she's there for her young formative years through releases. He is there also spending a decade as a corrections officer. And they basically have the same tenure. He starts a little bit before she arrives, and then they travel along together as he works his way up the ranks and she works her way towards parole and separation from the justice system. There's a lot of pieces and parts that I had to look at, a lot of research into the community. So I got a rash of weird prison videos that kept showing up for a while, which was eye-opening. The standout themes for the book is the mechanical side of themes and then the story themes. So the mechanical themes, I was definitely working on trying to enhance and improve dialogue. I was working to do a more balanced presentation between the male-female characters, which is, again, it's not something I typically do. I typically keep a single character through an entire story. On the other side, the major themes are the law enforcement criminal interactions, that psychological pairing between a police officer and a criminal is almost the same. They have to be very similar personalities in how they operate. They're just aligned opposite. And I went with the opposites track thing. So her and him. I deliberately set the characters into both of them in a low point because she has become accustomed to her jailed environment, her prisoned environment. He has just lost the 10, 12-year relationship, and they're both getting spat back out into the world in situations that neither one of them really is accustomed to. So they're both thrown off kilter. And while they're finding their direction, they realize that they're both pointing in the same direction. I don't know that it's like the unrequited love, that's probably the wrong word, but had a crush on him for the duration of their time, but obviously untouchable because they're together where they are. She is not able to act upon her desires, and he has been suffering abuse at the hands of a soon-to-be ex in his case. The process and unique elements to the story were, I really had to research this. I mean that flippantly, but I haven't been to jail. I don't intend to go to jail. So I had to research the environment to start. So that was the first piece, because I had a setting where I had a jailed female inmate interested in her captain of the guard, who's also leaving in the same direction that she is physically. They were going to the same city. The environment was difficult because I had to research a world I'm unfamiliar with. So physically it was a challenge. Like deciphering how that kind of stuff works, deciphering some of the language and deciphering how the interactions and the rules work. And that was eye-opening. Growing up, the show Cops was always on TV, so that and the normal goofy TV shows are obviously out there, but I had to go a little bit more in depth. So like I said, I had a few months where I was digging into the setting for this, where I just had like jail interviews kept popping up on my online video stream, which was educational. The process, again, I was working on changing the style of the story. The story is based upon dialogue interaction between the two characters, though the chapters switch perspective, but the dialogue is what moves along and describes the story. So it's the interpersonal interactions as their illicit relationship turns into more of a valid relationship. I wanted to take both characters and show positive recovering character arc for both of them. So in effect, this is a very positive story, as much trouble as these two knuckleheads get into. While they're getting into trouble with each other, they're growing and developing and interacting, and they're both dealing with their own psychological issues. On her side, it's the anger, it's the depression, it's the anxiety, it's the lack of trust. For him, it's the depression, it's the changing job, moving house, and dealing with all the depression and stress of a new job, that kind of stuff like that. He's dealing with his issues, she's dealing with her issues, and both characters' psychological issues are coloring their responses to things. And while I don't like coming out saying something as blatant as, I have anger issues, or I'm feeling depressed, that's shitty dialogue. It's like exposition that makes everything feel cheap and not so great. The unique elements are not so much the physical stuff that they interact with, but it's how they interact with each other and the level of respect that they both grow and cultivate through their relationship. It's that whole, you can't love somebody that you don't respect, you can't respect somebody that you don't have a positive understanding. Even if that person is opposed to you, you can respect them because they've got strong virtues that they are opposing you with. You need to have a basic understanding of the person's virtues, for better or worse, in order to respect them as an opponent or as a person or as a lover or however they work out. So that was a big aspect in the story. Personal take and recommendations on the story is definitely, it's an over 18 kind of thing. The story is finished. It's just stuck behind a bunch of other stuff that needs to get finished first. So it's an upcoming story. I'd like to publish it before the end of the year, but I've got a stack of stuff I need to get finished. I'm mostly done with those big chunky projects that are worth money. So when I finish the big chunky projects that are worth money, I'm going to divert more time into getting a bunch of stuff published. I think this is one of 10 or 11 books that I need to finish, put the cover art together for, and then publish. My current backlog is ridiculous at this point. I need to finish the money stuff first, and then we're going to work on the fun project, getting them out and published. So hopefully I'll get this out before the end of the year, because the book is done, the editing is finished. I need to get the pieces and parts physically published first. There's a little bit of logistics and stuff in there, but it shouldn't be too long till I get this one out. As far as recommendations, over 18. Talk to you later.